Another first for the channel, and indeed myself. I've never drank this whiskey before, ever, apart from a little sample that I had. That was it though. Full stop, that was it. And this is now an award-winning Irish whiskey, I'm delighted to say, and here in the pub. Tiny bit of history coming up and a smashing drop. Let's drink some whiskey. Welcome to Whisky and Whiskey. I'm the Whiskey Chaser Brian here in Christys Bar Kilkenny. Hope you're keeping well. Age statement, check. Single malt, check. Fortified wine finish, checkity check, check. And also, award winning. Nice title to have. This is the 15-year-old sherry finished single malt Irish whiskey from Samuel Gelstons Irish Whiskey. All right, a little touch of history. Let's get to know the brand, and then we'll get to know the whiskey up close and personal. Dirty. Gelstons Old Irish Whiskey was founded in 1830 by Samuel Gelston, a successful wine and whiskey merchant from Belfast. When Samuel died in the late 1869, Henry James Neal, aka Harry, purchased the business and developed the scale of the business considerably both in Ireland and in overseas markets. Prior to the brand purchase, Harry had left Belfast in 1851 to seek his fortune in the Australian gold rush of that year. Rather than prospecting, however you want to pronounce it, for gold, he set up a pioneering provisions business for the miners and their families and brought his younger brothers out to Australia to help grow the firm. He successfully sold his share and returned to Ireland in 1862, a very wealthy man. It was around 1869 he set about the task of rebuilding the Gelstons business. Not only was he blending and selling whiskey casks in Ireland, but he was instrumental in starting to export to the likes of Australia and New Zealand, primarily into the business that his brothers had carried on and set up. Indeed, one of these was Neal & Co, based in Dunedin and run by his brother Percival, at one time the largest spirits business in New Zealand. I hope I said that right, Dunedin. Harry successfully ran the business until his death in 1891, when the business moved to another H.J. Neal of the next generation. 5 generations later, and the Samuel Gelstons brand is still in the hands of the Neal family and is yet again developing a worldwide following. If you are not familiar with the Gelstons brand, there are a number of releases under the Gelstons brand name, everything from the likes of a blend to a pot still. I believe there's a 25-year-old single malt in there, a Pinot Noir finished pot still, amongst other age statements and finished whiskies. But our main focus here today is this 15-year-old sherry finished single malt. Just a small little caveat to all of this, I'm not entirely sure where this whiskey came from. Their portfolio of Irish whiskies is sourced, with the younger releases coming from West Cork Distilleries, I believe, and there was a 15-year-old version of this that was finished in bourbon that came from the Bushmills Distillery, and I have had a wee sample, a wee nib of this when I got it out of the box and first did a little taste, and it does kind of taste a lot like Bushmills malt, but without proper verification from anyone in the company, I can only speculate that this is indeed Bushmills. Long story short, I'm guessing that it's Bushmills. But more importantly about this is that it has just recently won the best single malt whiskey in the 12 to 15-year-old category at the Irish Whiskey Awards this year, 2021, held in the beautiful Powerscourt Distillery, which I visited, and you can see a video of up here. But yeah, she took home some gold. So that was immediately on my list of whiskeys to have on the channel, and here it is. I mean, let's be honest, everybody knows how I feel about single malt Irish whiskeys by now. Love them. So some of the information behind this whiskey is a bottling of single malt matured initially for a minimum of 14 years in ex-bourbon and then matured for a further just 2 years in ex-Oloroso sherry hogs. 43% ABV, so right on the line for me. And get this, 80 euros when I bought it. Funnily enough though, some online stockists are now pricing it at 100 euros. It reminds me of a certain price hike after the Irishman 17 won the Best Single Malt Award one year. You know who you are. Let's get this in the glass. We have some drinking to do. Now, as is customary, before I give you any of my tasting notes, if you liked any of that information, be sure to like and consider subscribing and sharing. Helping build the channel is a massive flex, so I do thank you for all of your support, your help and your support. And yes, I just used a term that was way too young for me, flex. YOLO. And also, if you haven't seen my amazing, beautiful and limited released Distilleries of Ireland 2022 calendar, here it is. It is available at select stockists, to which I will leave a link to down below. And we have also created our own website to make it even handier, worldwide shipping. I'll leave a link down below. It features 12 of the most beautiful distilleries Ireland has to offer in stunning high resolution. Get your nerd onto this. Plus €1 of every sale goes to charity. So we are doing the right thing, I hope. Yeah, link below. And we pour. And now the moment I've been waiting for. I'm going to give this a chance to air and breathe a little bit, but before I do, which I'm looking forward to trying, the first Gelstons I've had on Whiskey and Whiskey, 15 years of age, sherry finished for 2 years minimum, 43% ABV, sorry, 2 years-ish, 43% ABV, available online for anywhere between 80 to 100 euros. Good luck finding them. Right, so giving it a chance to breathe a little bit. Let's get it on the nose and we'll do our tasting notes. So straight away, now I have had a chance to, as I said in the video, I've had a small little nib of this before. Maybe, you know, just to make sure and to verify that my notes were correct, that I was getting all the notes, but it's not a shocker to me what I'm expecting here. So straight away, it's very woody. It's very fruity. There's a lovely syrupy note to it. It's very rich. The syrup note is a combination of the fruit and the wood. There's an interaction there, which is making it really kind of woody sweet, woody fruity even. It's not a word, but I just made it one. Giving it a chance to breathe out a little bit more. The sherry notes are incredibly obvious here. The influence is really apparent. You have your nutty, your touch of dryness on the nose. There's a very light hint of spice coming through on this. Nothing major. The spice is completely tamed down. It's an abundance of fruitiness, so it's almost like a fruit salad of sorts. That sweetness that you would get in the syrupy note that's left over from a fruit salad. It's very familiar, very reminding me of that, reminiscent of that. Lovely. If you're a fan of a certain distillery's whiskey from Antrim, you will be reminded of that here, I think. My personal opinion. It's not saying where it's from, but very vibrant, lots of vibrancy. Vanilla at the very end from the bourbon casks too. Medium complexity. Developing, there's a bit going on there. You would expect that from a 15-year-old sherry finished single malt. Yeah, as it develops a little bit more, giving it more time in the glass, you really get that lovely, sweet, fruity, woody, sherry, nutty notes. Just when they combine, tickling in your nose. Lovely. Let's get on the palate. Cilantro. Really good nutty, woody, candied fruitiness. Sherry. Sherry influence hugely apparent, really shining through. Those toasted nutty notes as well combined with the oak, very, very nice. Small touch of bitterness. Cilantro. That bitterness note is just there. A little bit of spiciness to it. Nothing obtrusive, nothing in your face. Again, I should remind you, that bitterness note, I'm critiquing this being incredibly, just really pulling it apart. You have to find it, you have to look for it, but it is there, that bitterness. There's also a hint of apple, and as you will come to expect, dark chocolate or leather, just a wee touch. Let's launch it. Now again, that dark chocolate, leathery note at the end, a little bit more obvious as you're going through the motions. But again, sherry influence really heavy. On the finish, you know, tapering down, that bitterness note is a little bit more through there, but you know, your nutty, woody, sweet and syrupy. Didn't have the huge syrup note on the palate, maybe just because the fruit and the woodiness was overshadowing it. But now on the finish, definitely there. It really reminds me, I suppose, of the nose that you would get from a maple syrup bottle. Not the maple syrup itself, but that decadence, that heaviness. That's very reminiscent of that. Reminds me there tremendously so. What's left on the palate, sweet woody notes. Again, in the interest of not trying to repeat myself entirely all the time, but the sherry influence has played a huge part here. Really blended in well with the single malt. Doing a lovely job. Really nice. To finish, slange it. Natural color. A little bit of chocolate and nuttiness and the woody vibes coming through in the end again. Yeah, everything I stated already. Yummy. Here's what I think. A fantastic value drinker here. If you like big sherry notes mixed with sweetness, that I would definitely say this is for you. Medium complexity, but very well balanced from nose to finish. It develops quite nicely on the tongue and everything does gel generally very well together. But I do like big sherry notes, so this is probably suits my palate a little bit more than normal. Fortified wine finish fanboy and all. If you don't like really sweet, kind of fruity, candied whiskeys, you might not think much about this. You might think it's overdone. So around the value side of things, I think if you can get this for 80 euros, not bad. Buy two. If it's a thing that the price has jumped up 20 euros because of it winning an award, and now it's 100 euros, you know what? That's just bang out of order. Absolutely no need for it. Price gouging at its best, and you know what? It really does piss me off. I'm not taking away the award from it. I think that it truly does deserve that award. I just don't think if the price has risen because of that, it's very fair. It's just goddamn greedy, and there's no point on it. It's ruining, stuff like this ruins the Irish whiskey category. Putting all that aside though, I do think on a real note, I'm delighted I got to try whiskeys like this because it does open my eyes to what's actually out there and the value some of these whiskeys are and some of the hype that they command. Some are flying way under the radar, so it's nice to get to see both sides of the fence, both expensive, inexpensive, and right on the middle. In the interest of transparency, I did purchase this bottle myself, so all thoughts are 100% my own. That's all I got for this week. Keep an eye on the channel and make sure you're subscribed to get all the latest releases and reviews when I drop them, not reviews. Until the next video, I'm the Whiskey Chaser Brian. Keep it Irish. Sláinte.